Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoiint, and after 4 years with the PS5, I think it's time for a long-term review. You cannot beat grabbing that favourite controller, sitting back on the sofa and smashing out those awesome games. And over the last 4 years, we've had some great new games, as well as new accessories, consoles and updates that I think has made the PS5 even better. Plus, the DualSense is still my all-time favourite controller to use. So today I'm going to talk about my experience with the PS5, what I like and dislike, and why I think every gamer needs one. But before we jump in, drop a like if you are a PlayStation fan. Okay, so since launch we've actually had 3 different PlayStation 5 consoles to choose from. We had the original PS5 which launched back in 2020 and looks like this, the Slim model which we got in 2023, and the PS5 Pro which was released at the end of 2024. Now the original and the Slim models are basically the same other than increased storage from 825GB to 1TB and a smaller, slimmer design. It didn't add any boost in performance. This means if you're still looking to buy a PS5 today, or wondering if you should upgrade from your OG model, other than size, storage and the USB ports on the front, you're going to get the same gaming experience on both. They both support up to 4K, 120Hz and VRR and will play all of the same games. And I can say after thousands of hours of playing on these two, they are brilliant. But if you feel the PS5 still doesn't offer enough power or storage, there's always the PS5 Pro, the more expensive and the more powerful PS5. It has a similar design to the Slim model but with extra vents on the side and is now the same height as the original PS5. It also gives us a step up in performance with an upgraded GPU, making a 67% more powerful PS5. We'll talk about games in a minute, but the PS5 Pro has been able to take games that already look great on the original PS5 and made them even better. So the Pro introduced PSSR, or the PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution. This is an AI upscaler that takes a lower resolution of a game, say 1440p, and upscales it to 4K. That then means you can enable the 120Hz mode and basically run the game at an upscaled 4K resolution and 120Hz at the same time. Now this only works on the PS5 Pro enhanced games, but we've already had loads of these added to the library in the first couple of months. Now whether you need a PS5 Pro over the other 2 PS5s comes down to if you've got a TV or monitor that supports it. If you don't have a 4K or 120Hz compatible screen, it's really not worth buying one, as you're not going to notice much of a difference. Now personally for me, I have swapped to the PS5 Pro as I think the extra storage, power and improved image quality is worth it, but it's not cheap and you do need to buy a disc drive separately as it does not come with one. Although if you are upgrading from a PS5 Slim, that drive does fit on it. But honestly, for most people, the other PS5s are more than enough. And don't forget, there is another cool feature with the PS5s, and it's the fact that you can swap out the covers. So if white isn't your thing, you can buy and swap out the covers to pretty much any other colour. Now both the original and the Slim models have loads to choose from, but we are still waiting for the Pro covers to release. Right, okay, then we have the games. After all, that should probably be the #1 reason you're buying or even using a PS5. And what I can say is over the last 4 years, we've had some great games to play. Some exclusive to PlayStation and some not. But either way, I've had an awesome time so far with it. And it's the place that I spend most of my time. Okay, let me start with the exclusive games. Spider-Man Remastered, which although started off on the PS4, was remastered for the PS5 and it's also been PS5 Pro enhanced. So we're getting better visuals and ray tracing, which we never got on the PS4 version. And this is still one of my all-time favourite games. God of War Ragnarok is also one of the most enjoyable and visually stunning games that you can play on the PS5. I mean, that relationship between Kratos and Atreus, the scenery, the fights, there's something special about this game that everybody needs to play. Of course, we've got Spider-Man 2, which is a PS5 exclusive game where you get to play as both Peter Parker and Miles Morales. I'll talk more about the DualSense Controller features in a minute, but once you've experienced the haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers in games like Spider-Man and Horizon Forbidden West, you cannot go back to a normal controller. These make every game so much more engaging. Then yeah, as mentioned, we've got the Horizon games. So we had Forbidden West and then more recently the remaster for Zero Dawn. Both incredible games. And then some other PlayStation exclusive games have included Stellar Blade, again one of the most vibrant and graphically stunning games that we've had in this generation. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, this is one that I always go back to. Astro Bot is probably one of the best games on the PS5 right now. and I've spent way too long trying to improve my speedrun times, so much so that I've hit over 60 hours on this game. Then we've got some other wicked games as well, including The Last of Us. They are up there with my favourite stories of all time. I actually think I've played these about 3 or 4 times each due to the remasters. Oh, and if you're into racing, we of course have GT7. This is the best racing sim game to play. The visuals, the car sounds, the gameplay. I've played games like Forza Motorsport, but this one still tops it in my opinion. Honestly, almost all of these games alone should be enough to convince anyone to get a PS5. Although they do eventually end up on PC, it usually takes a year or 2 before they do. Of course, we do get non-exclusive games as well, games that you can find on Xbox and PC, so things like the Crew Motorfest, Hogwarts Legacy, Black Myth Wukong, and Alan Wake 2. All of these games are not exclusive to the PS5, but they still look and play great on here as well. And then we have the Xbox games. Now, I do own an Xbox Series X and an S console, and I use them to play the Xbox exclusive games. But recently, with the news that more and more Xbox games are coming to the PS5, it feels like the PS5 will end up being able to play everything just like on PC. So the big one for me is Forza Horizon 5. This is one that got announced within the last couple of weeks. And this is one of the best open world racing games out there. And the fact it's coming to the PS5 this year is huge news. The same goes for games like Doom: The Dark Ages, Indiana Jones, and more recently Sea of Thieves. We're only a few games away now from having the full library of Xbox games as well. I can imagine Gears and Halo being announced in 2025. So does that mean this is an Xbox? As for the DualSense Controller, is it really that good? Well, even 4 years on, this thing still blows me away. Honestly, this controller is an absolute game changer, and it really is a console seller. When we first got this, I remember thinking how big it felt compared to the PS4 controller, but today it feels perfect to hold, plus it looks awesome. But it's the features that this thing has that completely changes the way the games feel and play. Firstly, the haptic feedback, which you might think is just another rumble motor. Well, it gives you feedback in games that you didn't think you could ever feel. So in racing games where you go off the track very slightly or brake, you can feel the controller vibrate, almost like it's simulating the texture of the actual road surface. Then there's the adaptive triggers, which again changes the way that all PS5 games feel. So instead of just a trigger that you pull and it moves, you get this resistance as you pull it depending on what you're trying to do. Like accelerating in the Crew Motorfest, you can feel the trigger almost let off each time it changes gear. Or if you're wheel spinning, you can feel that through the trigger. Same with braking, the trigger is firmer to press as you brake hard. I think at first you might think this is more of a novelty thing to have, but having used the DualSense for the last 4 years, I don't actually enjoy using other controllers now. On top of that, there are so many designs out there to choose from that if you don't like the white one, you can go for something completely different for the setup. In fact, I've lost count how many they've released now, but we've got so many different colours and limited edition launches that you can find one for almost anything you want. Over the years, I've actually tried to collect them all, although I think the only one I'm missing now is Concord, as that one is pretty much impossible to get. But don't forget, we also got the Edge controller, which is kind of the pro controller for the PS5. I use this for the games where I either need those extra rear buttons for the extra button presses, or where I want the faster trigger response due to the instant triggers. Either way, this is a great controller to use if you want to get the most out of the PS5. But let's be honest, these controllers are not perfect, and the only real downside that I can think of is the battery size. Typically, I get around 8 to 10 hours out of them, which for most of us is more than enough for a single gaming session. But it does mean that you need to remember to charge it after every single gaming session, or it's probably going to run out the next time. And it's also one of the reasons that I use charging docks in my setups, as it means I don't have to think or worry about keeping them charged up for next time. Another thing worth talking about is the Portal. I know this isn't directly linked to whether the PS5 is worth buying, but it might make it easier. So the PlayStation Portal is a handheld streamer device that lets you play your PS5 and your PS5 games away from your setup. So it actually does two things. It can remote play your PS5 so you're able to log in and play your PS5 on the go. So from here you're able to see the dashboard and play your installed library of games, but obviously this locks your PS5 from being used at the same time, as essentially you are just screen sharing. But it also lets you cloud game directly on the Portal, allowing you to play games in the PS Plus library without the need of your PS5. You do need a premium subscription for this to work, but it means you technically don't need a PS5 to play these games. Now, my experience with the Portal has been a little bit hit or miss, as sometimes it works flawlessly thousands of miles away from home, and other times it fails to log into the PS5 while I'm sitting in the same room. But when it does work and my connection is strong enough, this is the best way to play the PS5 on the move. Sure, I could use an iPad and a controller, but this is an all-in-one setup that is definitely the better way to play. I also wanted to talk about you guys, the community around the PS5 and, well, PlayStation and gaming in general. I've been posting content about the PS5 for years, and generally speaking, the comments, replies and vibe I get across all of the socials is positive. I think that's another huge advantage of playing on PlayStation, is that you're sharing your love for gaming with hopefully like-minded people. Like, we're all using a similar console with the same controllers and playing the same games. We all want the best from our gaming experience, whether it's new games, new updates to the UI, or just free themes. I find that you guys generally engage with each other a lot in the comments too, which is great to see. So PlayStation Plus is something that pretty much every PS5 owner will use at some point in their lives. It gives us access to online gaming and cloud storage, but it also gives us free games every month. Okay, they aren't free as such, as we are obviously paying a monthly sub, but we get 3 games every month to download. Some months these games are decent, like February for example, we get High on Life and Payday 3. I'm happy with that, whereas we've had some pretty terrible months as well. Now personally, I will always use PS Plus, as I like the cloud storage, knowing that all of my game saves are backed up online. That then means the monthly games, to me at least, are just a free bonus. But there are other plans as well, like the Extra and the Premium, which gives you a game library, free trials and the classic game catalogue. But unless you're going to make use of those game catalogues, it's probably not worth paying the extra. I'm on Premium, but that's only because I stacked these years ago. If I was choosing today, I would probably just stick with Essential. And if you're into VR gaming, the PS5 of course has PSVR 2. This not only gives us exclusive VR games like Horizon Call of the Mountain, but some games have been upgraded to be VR compatible as well. Take GT7 for example. This launched as a normal PS5 game, but since PSVR 2 released, it's been updated to allow full VR compatibility. And this has completely changed the way that you play some of these games. Like, until you've tried VR, you don't realise just how good it is. Now, of course, you don't need a PS5 to play VR, as you've got things like the Meta Quest and other PC gaming headsets, but it's a fact that you can play VR on the PS5 if you want to, especially if you're a trophy hunter. And that leads me on to trophies. So over the years, I've dipped in and out of trophy hunting, where I've suddenly had a surge that I want to get as many platinums as I can, and then I'll stop and just enjoy the story and move on to the next game. But that is what is great about the PS5. Every game has a list of trophies that you can go for. Some are unmissable as they are part of the story, while others are hidden away as extras that you need to go looking for. But the UI for the trophies have massively improved over the last 4 years, that I think makes it even easier and more enjoyable to trophy hunt. So we have got a full list of what you've achieved here, a platinum count here for the games you've 100% completed, and the level that you're currently at. I also like the fact that you can pin trophies for the games that you're currently playing, so you can quickly glance at the trophy list if you're currently trying to get one. So for me, I'm in the process of finishing off Watch Dogs Legion. Now of course, trophy hunting is not for everyone, as sometimes it's nice just to play the game and move on. But out of interest, if you are a trophy hunter, how many platinums do you currently have? Now, something that's often overlooked when talking about or looking at the long-term reviews is the ease of use, and how easy it is to jump on the PS5 and use it on a daily or a weekly basis. And I have to say, it is seriously a joy to boot this thing up every time. It's fast, it's quiet, and I've never had an issue with crashes or updates. I know that I can come home, grab my controller and power it on, and within seconds I'm scrolling through the dashboard and finding the next game to play. Now over the years we've had various updates to the UI, and on the whole every new update improves the menus and the UI that you don't really need to think about what you're doing. Everything is pretty intuitive. So all of your games are obviously listed here. We've got completion status, trophies, who else is playing it from your friends list, and I also think the UI on the whole is very clean and sharp. And I've got to say the recent addition of the welcome tab is brilliant as well. I love being able to see all of this in one place, as well as being able to customize it as well. Now when the PS5 first launched, I remember us all being disappointed in the 825GB of storage. So it's obviously great to see that the Slim and the Pro models have both had a bump up in storage. But with the new games getting bigger and bigger, the internal SSD just gets eaten up so fast. But fortunately, all 3 of these PS5 models do have the option to install an additional SSD internally, which I've actually ended up doing on both of my PS5s. but it also means now that I'm pretty much future-proof from all of the games that I wish to download. So my advice is, if you've got a PS5 or you're looking to get one, definitely increase the storage via this way, as it's so much easier to manage. Another really cool thing with the PS5 is something called PlayStation Stars. I mentioned this briefly during my top tips video a couple of weeks back, but this is the rewards program that PlayStation offer, and you get this for playing games or completing different challenges, and in turn they give you collectibles or coins which you can use to spend on the actual PlayStation Store. So over the years I've earned about 40,000 points which I've redeemed against games and PSN credit, and I can then use that to buy other games on the store. But as you can see here, my current balance is just under 6,000. I could spend that on any of these games or save up a little more for the more expensive ones. Essentially, you're getting free money for completing challenges or playing games that you would have done anyway. Now, over the last 4 years, we've had so many requests for improvements, I think we're getting near the end now. Like we wanted 1440p and VRR support. Well, we got those. We wanted folders and they gave us game lists. I think the only real improvement that I can think of, if I knew PlayStation were going to watch this, would be to add themes. Like, we had these back on the PS4 and they were awesome. I mean, sure, we have themes or a wallpaper on the welcome tab which we can choose and customize, but I want a theme that will work across the entire dashboard. Now, I know why they won't do this, and that's because the game art would then be replaced with your own image, but at least give us the choice if we want to do that. But what about you guys? If you knew PlayStation were tuned in now and they were reading your comments, what changes would you like to see added to the PS5? Changes that you think would actually make it better? But on the whole though, I think the PS5 is seriously an awesome console. I jump between all of the other choices out there, from the Xbox to Switch, handheld and PC, and I keep finding myself back on the PS5 every single time. I think it's a combination of the trophy system, the exclusive games that I prefer to play, the awesome controller and the overall look and feel of the console and the UI. There's something special about it that I just like to grab my favourite controller and sit back on the sofa. But if you're on the fence and you're not sure whether you need a PS5, I'm going to say just go for it. Even if we do get a PS6 in the next 2 to 3 years, don't let that stop you. There's already a huge library of games to catch up on that you'll be busy for years to come. And if you've already got a PS5, which games are you currently playing that you would recommend everyone else try? Now drop a PS5 is awesome in the comments and I'll give you a thumbs up for staying right till the end. And if you did enjoy today's video, check out my top PS5 tips video next, as it covers 15 tips to get the most out of your PS5. Well, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and follow me everywhere. Until next time.